So, hello everyone. Welcome to Loving Kindness Meditation. My name is Travis. I'm filling in for Alex tonight. He was unable to make it. So tonight there won't be the story of Devadatta. It's been many years since I heard it. So we'll just do some normal discussion about loving kindness tonight. For the meditation practice, I rarely sub in for Alex, and when I do, I like to do a variation of loving kindness from what Alex normally does, or some other kind of heart practice. So I think tonight we'll do a gratitude meditation. It's one of my favorites. I tend to say that about every meditation, but it is one of my favorites. It's an enjoyable meditation. Typically the choice that's weighed when I sub in for Alex is either I'm going to do a gratitude meditation, which is generally enjoyable, or a forgiveness meditation, which typically isn't, but it is beneficial, but not enjoyable. So we'll do gratitude meditation tonight. A few disclaimers before we get started is with the gratitude meditation, we're not necessarily focusing on grateful for the fancy car, grateful for the material possessions or anything like that. We're focusing more on generating gratitude for our own good qualities, the good qualities within us, and generating gratitude for the good qualities of others. So it follows a similar structure to loving kindness meditation, where we'll focus on ourselves for a little bit, someone dear to us, and then ever broadening circles. Before we get started, just in terms of posture, if you're sitting on a chair, it's helpful to have feet flat on the ground. I like to bring the shoulders up and back and then allow them to drop into a sturdy posture. The tongue can be pressed up gently against the roof of the mouth and the back of the teeth, prevents the buildup of saliva, which can become a distraction. And with that, we'll get started. Closing the eyes, taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And then settling into a natural rhythm of breathing. And as you focus on the breath, you can notice if there's any tension or tightness in the forehead or the shoulders. And just see if you can consciously relax it all the way through the in-breath and all the way through the out. Noticing as well if there's any tension around the process of breathing itself. If there's any sense of forcing the breath in or squeezing it out. And see if you can soften that a bit, allowing the breath to flow in, allowing it to flow out. And you can follow the breath down into the sensation of the chest, the area around the heart. And consciously relax that tension and tightness in the chest. That's where we'll be resting for the remainder of the meditation, so we want to make it a comfortable place to stay. With sensation in the chest relaxed, you can allow your awareness to settle down in the heart. Aware of the sensations in the heart, whatever they may be. And starting by generating gratitude for the breath. How wonderful is it that we have this tool built right into us that we can use to calm ourselves, to center ourselves. It's really a beautiful thing. And we tend to not have too much appreciation for it. You can even allow a gentle smile to rest on the face. Breathing in, grateful for the breath. Breathing out, grateful to be alive. Noticing how this gratitude feels in the chest. And we can expand it a bit. You can recollect you had clean water to drink today, whatever food you had today. It's really a beautiful thing that we were able to have those things. And sometimes we can forget. You can recollect that you had a safe place to sleep last night, if you did. And setting aside these staples of life for the time being, and calling to mind your own good qualities of heart, good qualities of mind. Maybe it's your kindness or your drive or your creativity or any qualities that you're currently developing. Give yourself a moment to appreciate them. If you want to work with a phrase, you can. Something like, I'm grateful for my good qualities. May they continue and multiply. You can think that internally, and then notice how it feels for the heart. And you can set yourself aside for the time being. Call to mind the friendships that you're grateful for, the people that you're grateful for, and whoever came to mind first. You can invite an image of them into your heart, and you can generate this gratitude for them, thinking, I am grateful for your good qualities. May your good fortunes continue and multiply. Directing this feeling of gratitude, of appreciation towards this dear person. Recollecting their qualities that you admire. I'm grateful for your good qualities. May your good fortunes continue and multiply. Letting that gentle smile rest on the face and noticing sensation of heart. You can send this dear friend on their way. And then call to mind someone whom you're envious of. Maybe they got the promotion that you wanted, or you have some story about how their life worked out better than yours. Whoever comes to mind, there's no need to figure it out. You can just make them the object of the meditation, inviting an image of them into the heart, if comfortable. And generating this appreciation for them as well. May your good fortunes continue and multiply. And you can notice if wishing them well causes tension in the body, some kind of resistance. And you can consciously soften it and then return to the gratitude. Understanding that you gain nothing from someone else being deprived of something. It only weighs you down. I'm grateful for your good qualities. May your good fortune continue and multiply. And lastly, you can send this person on their way. That's enough of that. And you can call to mind the broader picture of the world. If you want, you can hold an image of the earth in your heart. And just take a few minutes to focus on all the good that's in the world. There's so many kind and caring people, charitable causes, caregivers. May all beings, good fortunes continue and multiply. May I be grateful for the good qualities in others. Again, letting that gentle smile rest on the face. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths slowly. Maintaining this awareness imbued with gratitude, and slowly opening the eyes when ready, and stretching if needed. So as always, after the meditation practice, I'm interested to hear if anyone would like to share how that experience was for them, or if anyone has any questions or comments about the meditation. If that includes anyone online, there's a chat box somewhere here or here if you want to leave a response of some kind, or if you have any questions.
Yeah, I feel like for me, it just kind of helped me to, just feel more gratitude for, everything that's already in my life. I know sometimes I kind of get a little future oriented, always trying to think of how to make things better and better. But yeah, it's good to just find that joy in what is around us. So, thank you.
I'm glad it was beneficial. Thank you for sharing.
Or even just remembering what you said about the simple things like the food and water and shelter, something we really take for granted sometimes. So good to keep that in mind as well.
Those basic necessities are they're really all we need. If we have those things, they should be enough. The mind tends to make stories about how they're not, but it's nice to check in and generate that gratitude for things that tend to fade into the background because they're just always there. Jean shared, "Thank you. This gratitude practice is lovely, especially at a time when there is so much going on in the world that is negative." That's definitely one of the reasons I chose this tonight. Forgiveness meditation would just be piling on top of. So, yeah, it's important to be able to. The mind has a tendency, whether it's survival based or something like that, to focus on the negative things. Something that's negative, our mind gets drawn to it much more than the positive things. So it's important to be able to take a moment and recognize kind of those mind games that we're playing with ourselves. It can seem like the whole world's a mess, the whole world's crazy, but there's still lots of amazing, beautiful people out there who are kind and compassionate. And it's helpful to think about that and kind of give the mind a break from the doomsday prophecies. Yeah. Would anyone else like to share?
When you talked about being envious, I was a little bit of a surprise. I think my mind maybe was that going down the negative. A very unusual situation in my life where I'm grateful that I do have a roof over my head, but unfortunately somebody that I'm getting divorced from is paying for it. And it's very contentious, so I almost start going down that forgiveness path because I'm grateful I have a roof over my head. And if the person who's providing that also happens to be an adversary, I kind of have to automatically forgive them, or at least I start, all that mess comes in. But it was kind of okay. And I didn't feel angry.
Good.
That was probably the best outcome.
Yeah, it's important, and I'm glad that you kind of defaulted to the forgiveness aspect. It's important with these heart practices to kind of to learn what to apply when, what quality of heart or quality of mind to apply in a given situation. If there's anger there, then forgiveness tends to be a good response. If there's envy or jealousy, then gratitude and appreciation tends to be a good response. All of these heart practices that the Buddha covers, which I'm just now realizing I didn't go over. That's kind of the class. But so what we did tonight, I call it gratitude meditation because it's, you could say like colloquially, that's most understood, but it's not technically a gratitude practice within Buddhist canon. It's mudita practice or empathetic joy. Gratitude is a debt that you, within Buddhist canon, a debt that you owe to your parents for giving birth to you. It's a different word than mudita. So this empathetic joy is one of the 4 Brahma Viharas, or sublime abidings. The first one being metta, and then metta is loving kindness, what we typically do on Wednesday nights. Karuna, compassion. Compassion is what happens when loving kindness encounters suffering. When metta encounters suffering, it transforms into compassion. And then you have mudita, or empathetic joy. When loving kindness encounters happiness, it transforms into empathetic joy, or gratitude for other people's good fortune. Gratitude for our own good fortunes and gratitude for the good fortunes of others, ideally as if it was our own good fortune. There's a quote, I believe, by the Dalai Lama: if you find happiness in the happiness of others, you'll never be at a shortage for happiness. And it's that kind of quality. Instead of having envy arise in the mind or in the heart, when you see someone else, for example, living the life you've always dreamed of living, it's something we can generate gratitude for. Not only is it beautiful, because it's, of course, they're enjoying it, or we have this idea of them enjoying it because it's something we've always wanted. They're also an example that it is possible. So instead of getting envious, we can have gratitude for people being a living example. And then the last of the qualities is upekkha, or equanimity. Upekkha literally means to be standing up on a mountaintop looking out. So it's adopting a broad perspective and being kind of unshaken by things. So you have metta, which is the driving force, and then at the end you have upekkha, which is the balancing force. It's kind of a check and balance on making sure compassion doesn't turn into misery, and give rise to what's called compassion fatigue, which is really commiseration fatigue, not compassion fatigue. There is a difference. And then it makes sure that empathetic joy doesn't overindulge into being kind of excited, kind of that anxious excitement because there's so many cool things happening or so many good things happening, both of which aren't conducive. Commiseration or overexcitement aren't conducive to getting the mind to settle and finding a source of true happiness within, which the heart practices are all about. The reason I went over them is, one, because it's the point of the class, but two, because you mentioned you were surprised that I brought up envy. Each of these 4 practices are intended to counteract particular mind states that are detrimental to the practice. Loving kindness or goodwill counteracts ill will. Ill will being wanting to see someone else suffer because you don't like them, or whatever other nonsense story we cook up. And then you have compassion, which is an antidote to harmfulness, which is when you see someone suffer, the drive to want to pile on top. Sometimes if we're in a really dark place or we're a really angry person, that can be a tendency. And then again, mudita, or empathetic joy, is intended as an antidote to envy. Instead of getting envious towards someone else's good fortune, we can have gratitude of someone being a living example that is possible. Also understanding that we gain nothing from depriving someone else of something, even if we don't like them, and it only burdens our own mind and our own heart. And at the same time, if we can't have gratitude for the good fortunes of others, it makes it hard for us to be grateful for our own good fortunes when we come across them. Because it creates this mind state of, if I have good things happening, other people will be envious of me, and then my happiness is in danger. It can create that kind of fun little storyline in the mind. And then upekkha, or equanimity, is intended as an antidote to apathy. So apathy is not caring about anything, where equanimity is strategically understanding where we can and where we can't make an impact, and being able to let go of the areas where we can't make an impact and focus our energy on the areas where we can, both within our own mind and heart and within the world at large. So those are the 4 heart practices. Does anyone have any questions about that? Or would anyone else like to share their experience of meditation tonight?
What did you call the, like, the appreciation that our parents gave birth to us?
That's gratitude. I can't quite remember the Pali word, but that's what gets translated, at least from like Renaissance era England, that translated the canon into English and used a bunch of words that maybe weren't super great. That they were translating Buddhist texts from the mind state of biblical texts. So they used things like there's certain aspects of meditation that they'll refer to as rapture as a word, for example, when really it's a sense of fullness in the body, things like that. So some translations are decent and some are more influenced from like biblical language. So it's gratitude. What gets translated as gratitude is more of it's used in the terms of a debt of gratitude. So someone has specifically done something for you, done something that's deeply benefited you. The example I gave was parents gave life to you, so there's a debt of gratitude to pay within Buddhist practice. So
Very bizarre, because my parents got married in this church.
oh yeah,
And before you even said any of that, I had gratitude for the fact that they brought me into this world. And I felt that in here.
I saw the pictures. They're really cool.
Yeah. It's exactly the same, except for a few of the ball things.
So Melissa shared, I apologized, I joined late, so I'm not entirely sure if this question is on topic or not, but can you speak a little bit about what Buddhism says about self-forgiveness? Sure. So self-forgiveness within Buddhist practice is essential, and it's probably at least for myself personally, it's probably the hardest person to have forgiveness for is myself. Because other people, I can make the kind of justifications of, I don't know their story, I don't know where they're coming from, things like that, but I'm very much well aware of my own story and where I'm coming from. So in situations where I genuinely feel like I should have known better and I didn't, I tend to kick myself a lot about it. So what Buddhism says about self-forgiveness, at least within my own practice, is it's extremely challenging, but extremely beneficial. I think if you're interested in a forgiveness meditation, I think if you go to, well, you're on the YouTube page, but if you go to the temple's playlists, there's one titled Guided Meditations, and in that there's a forgiveness meditation, if you'd like to give that a try. Yeah. So self-forgiveness, it doesn't, to forgive yourself doesn't necessarily mean that you're suddenly okay with all of the things that you did, or you suddenly no longer see fault with any of the things that you did. It's less about that and more about being able to kind of viscerally let go of the resentment and the remorse that you have around those things. And instead of carrying them around, you can transform that resentment and remorse into conviction. Conviction in what? Conviction in cultivating a better state of mind, a better state of heart, and resolve in not making those same mistakes again. So instead of
healing.
Hmm?
A healing.
Yes. And so instead of focusing on the past, we change gears and focus on what qualities of mind can we develop in the present moment that would aid us in situations like that if they were to occur again. So that's something that helps me a lot. that falls less into doomsday planning and more into just generating conviction and cultivating good qualities of mind in this moment, understanding that in future situations they would be beneficial. Yeah, hopefully that kind of addresses your question. I think in that guided meditation, I probably also give a talk about forgiveness, probably. Let's see. If not, you can search it. It exists somewhere on the temple page. It exists somewhere. And yeah, so hopefully that kind of addresses your question. I have time for one more question, if anyone has any burning questions. It doesn't have to be specifically about tonight's topic.
There's kind of the forgiveness and self, or these loving kindness meditations. I just listened to someone who said that it's really important to have this forgiveness and self-compassion. It's like one of the most important elements out there. And that they said, think of the way when you feel compassionate towards someone or something who is having, you're having those feelings, and have those feelings for yourself. I had a real hard time doing that. It was like, it's so weird. I mean, what is that? And it went into this whole thing of, it was just so weird that I just kind of couldn't accept it. What is that?
So the first thing that comes to mind is the mind is just amazingly stubborn. We have so much conditioning of thinking a certain way for so long, and because I hate to shatter anyone's ideas, because what we think about the majority of the day, 99% of our thoughts are self-centered. They're about how can I find happiness? How could I get rid of this pain? How could I do this? How could I do that? Not as much time is spent on, it depends on the person, but the majority of the time is spent on trying to figure out our own crap. Not as much time is spent on nitpicking other people. So one, that's a lot of conditioning leading up to that of kind of focusing on our own problems and being ingrained in our own problems rather than being able to let that go. Sometimes there's an element of our identity tied up within these kind of things, within this, as strange as that may seem, within this self-resentment, within loathing, within all of that, there is a sense of self present there, and a sense of identity that we actually latch onto with these mind states because they're part of our mind, right? So part of what makes it easier to forgive other people and harder to forgive ourselves is that quality. There's part of the mind or part of the heart is, Buddhism uses heart and mind interchangeably. Part of that quality, something about that quality we identify with and we assert our sense of self kind of around that. So part of the mind is afraid of letting those things go because it feels like a releasing of part of our identity, releasing a part of who we've been for years. That's why both the resentment or any other bad habits we have or unhealthy ways of thinking are so hard to let go of, because we do see a sense of self in them. We do identify with them to a certain extent. So that's one of the reasons why it's harder to forgive ourselves. The other is, like I mentioned earlier, it's easier to create justifications for other people, like, oh, maybe they just didn't know any better, maybe this, maybe that. But we're well aware of what we know to an extent, so it makes it harder to kind of justify. And true forgiveness doesn't need justification; it just needs releasing. So it's easier to through justification then go to release for other people, but it's harder to find a sense of justification for our own actions when we have the storylines that we should have known better. Does that kind of address your question? There was another. Well, that's it, I guess. There was a part 2. Maybe I'll think of it tomorrow night. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Thank you to everyone online as well. Yeah, no announcements. Okay. So if comfortable, please join palms. We'll do a dedication of merit. May any merit gained from tonight's meditation and discussion be dedicated to all those who suffer at this time. May all beings in all directions, without limit or exception, be healthy, safe, joyful, and at ease. May we all be healthy, safe, joyful, and at ease. Metta karuna mudita bheka sanya teya cetasa chaturisam bharatva viharati samabudaro pavena samadhammaro pavena samasangharo pavena sote hontu nirantaram. Quick disclaimer for anyone watching online. Just because I'm leading online tonight doesn't mean that I'll be leading online tomorrow night. I only lead online when I substitute for someone else who leads online. The Thursday night discussion group that I regularly lead, because it is a discussion circle, I didn't want to have it recorded so that people will be more comfortable sharing. So I apologize for any inconvenience if you don't feel safe or comfortable coming to the temple at this time, or you're out of state or out of town. So I'm sorry about that, but every once in a while we'll still get to sit together. So thank you everyone for coming. Enjoy the rest of your night, and I'll see y'all next time.